Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea. Sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening up in the stars above. And today is our March Astro-Inklings broadcast. And I'm sitting here with Tam Veilleux of the Energy Almanac. Welcome, Tam.
Hi, Janet. I'm so happy to be here, everyone. Hi.
It's so great to be here. It's so funny that March came in so quickly, or it's, landing on our front doorstep so quickly. But
Uh,
February is a shorter month. I don't know. Somehow it just seems like the time flew.
the time flew. I was saying that to my husband over coffee this morning. Like, I cannot believe we're in the last week of February already. And then this morning, I was prepping for all of this, and I grabbed my energy almanac and I was referencing something, and I went, I jumped and I go, oh my God, next week I can use the book.
I was thinking
I
about
was
that
so
this morning
happy.
too.
Oh my God.
That's true
I
because
mean, digital almanac was great and everything, but like I'm analog all the way, and I like it jumped my heart, and I'm so happy we get to use the book.
yay! Yeah, because of course, as everybody has been aware, hopefully, the Bridge book has been what we put out for January through March, just because we switched the book to be all around the Astrological New Year, which begins in March. So here we
Yeah.
go into a new system of tracking what's happening in our lives through a calendar that actually makes sense, right? One that actually it's flowing with the energy instead of just like some dead day in the calendar that we've attributed it to be the new year.
Absolutely. This was one of the biggest dots that connected for me, was this whole really the battle between January and March was so hard in my Virgo head, and when it finally clicked, it made a really loud noise.
Do
Click.
you know that originally, even here in the USA, the inauguration of new presidents happened in March?
I do know that. It makes sense, right?
Right? It's closer to the real actual beginning of a year than
Yep.
January, what, 21st-ish or something, although that always puts it close to the new human design new year. But anyway, it
Oh,
just a but the human design new year is completely different than a new year. Um,
right.
but here we are in March now, and as most of us have been aware, there is this march of planets that are heading into the sign of Aries right now in Pisces, but heading toward Aries energy, which means that our year as it's beginning really turns us toward action, right? This is where we start the motion of living a new seated reality. And March, as I looked at all of the aspects and things like that, while there are a couple of big exclamation point type things, it's not as loud as some of the other months have been, but it's
Hmm.
certainly decisive. It has this edge of let's decide and then let's do. And this is the month, I think, where the things that have been dissolving from Piscean and maybe even Aquarian things earlier in the 2026 window begin to really take shape and begin to really form into reality with the dawning of Aries energy that we'll have as we move through to March.
Mm, and that Aries energy is just going to keep peaking as we get to the end of March into April. And
Even
we'll talk about that next month, right?
April
Yes.
is an extraordinary set of energies, right? And
Absolutely.
it really does, it boggles my mind every time I look at the chart.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are. We've got to start with where we are. And
Mhm.
as we start into the month of March, it's really, there seems to be like a theme going on in the month that keeps everything sort of moving in this forward direction. And it begins right away, March 2nd. Actually, the biggest thing it starts with is that Pisces or the Virgo lunar eclipse. But on March
100%.
2nd, the the ruling planet of Aries energy, Mars, moves
Mars.
into Pisces. And
Yep.
even though that feels kind of subtle, like Mars, we're putting a lot of pressure on this Martian energy. It's important because it really does color the eclipse. and
Yeah.
set this tone, I think, for how we're going to move through the month of March.
Oh,
And,
yes.
when Mars is fire, so if you just
Yeah.
think about the literal meaning of Mars, action, dynamic, forward motion, and he's in a water sign. He's moving into water, which really slows down that fire, right?
Makes
It slows
steam.
it down. It creates steam. And what can we do with steam? Well, we
Burn.
could let it burn us,
Yeah, I was gonna say burn.
or we could harness its energy and put it to work for us, right?
Yep.
The steam engine was all about that. So Mars in Pisces, it's not like forceful energy, like he's going to take on that persona when he gets in Aries, but through March he's in Pisces, and it's sort of diffused action, right?
Right.
So it means that we are more willing and more able, perhaps, to act from our intuition, from our inner guidance, from compassion, from imagination. I think it's extraordinary. Now,
I want to take a second and say, like, we nailed it with can you read
the
that?
I can't read it. You'll have to meaning
Meaning, meaningful progress through intuitive action. It seems just perfect. We nailed the theme, really.
looking ahead.
For Mars.
Yep. And yet there are some shadows to watch out for as Mars moves into Pisces. And I mean, there is with every movement of planets into every sign. So it's not like this is extraordinary, but it is something to be aware of. And that is that passive aggression energy becomes much more pronounced during a Mars and Pisces transit. We might experience energy leaks, right? Where there's just like this feeling of energy just leaking from our bodies, from our minds, like we're working on something and then suddenly it's like we lost the train of thought kind of thing. Fatigue and tiredness, people needing more naps. Don't be surprised, right? The action planet, the energetics of action in water, right? So something that we need to take into awareness. And of course, all of the Pisces savior, martyr, victim roles, victim energies that can come up for each one of us during this period of time.
Right.
But it's there. So in the gift, though, we have inspired action.
Yes.
Right? Becoming really super inspired and, maybe taking action on our imaginings and on our dreams, and having the courage to express our creativity, right? To bring out the new, the ideas that are, just in this imaginal realm that if we don't take action on, we'll just stay up there, right? We'll just stay somewhere floating around. Spiritual activism. I like this
Oh,
for
yeah. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Of
yeah,
course.
right. And Mars entering Pisces before the eclipse. This is happening the day before the lunar eclipse. And I think it means that we can't bulldoze our way into the new year. We
Right?
can't
Yeah.
like force everything out there and go and do and be. We have to be maybe a little more circumspect, or feeling our way into what comes next, rather
A
than just
softer approach, a much softer approach than Mars and Aries.
most definitely, most definitely. And that really does set us up if we do this right. And of course,
Whoops. Uh-oh. Squirrel.
something's buzzing. Oh, it's off right over. So if we do this right, then and we will, right? It's going to be perfect just as it is. Then we'll find ourselves moving forward as we move through later March and into April with a strategy in mind, right? With some kind of plan that we're actually taking action on, rather than just keeping it up here in our heads. So it's a great lead in to the March 3rd lunar eclipse, where something has to be let go of or comes into completion, right?
Completion. Yep.
So I'm going to pull up the chart for the lunar eclipse. Can you see that, everybody?
We can see it for sure.
Very good. Good morning, by the way, everybody who's checked in with us this morning. I saw, let's see, going back, I saw, well, that's you, Tam, isn't it? You're in there. Terry Hickox, good morning. Amy D, good morning to you. And then we had Bill. Good morning, Bill. Nice to see you out there. And Namira, nice to have you. And Jana, good morning. And anybody else that I see out there whose name I cannot pronounce, and also people who are out there who haven't checked in with us, welcome to the March Astro-Inklings with Tam Veilleux and, of course, me. So let's take a look at the eclipse, shall we? This is like the biggest news of the month of March. Well, maybe not the biggest, second biggest, maybe. And this is what we call a south node eclipse. So if you are all looking at this chart, what you see on the right side, because I know my pointer is useless when I do this now, the right side, that's the picture of the moon and the south node that is sitting very near it. And when we have a south node eclipse, it's all about what we're letting go of, what we are cutting out that we don't need anymore, what's maybe being revealed and landing in our lives in a way that we haven't had before. And the moon, if you notice, is standing alone across from all of the Virgo planets,
Isn't
or
that
Pisces
interesting?
planets, excuse me. I just find that extraordinary.
Me too. Yeah, I know. Looking at that chart, that's kind of remarkable. All the energy is with over at the sun over there.
Over in the collective waters of Pisces, where
Hmm.
there's surrender, where there's
Yep.
over, where there's intuition and intuitive just knowingness. Sometimes it's knowingness and not necessarily intuition as well.
Right.
There's mysticism, where there's compassion and universal love and acceptance and tolerance and all those yummy spiritual gifts that we think of. And then we have Virgo on the other side where the moon is. And Virgo is about discernment.
Hmm.
It is about refining, perfecting. I like refining better because perfecting sounds sort of,
Right.
hard.
I've come to love the word refinement.
Yeah, refining and embodied wisdom. So Virgo energy being such a nice balance to Piscean energy because it's grounding. It's grounding all of this, fluff up here into the real world down here. So it seems to me like the moon in this Virgo lens, if you want to call it this lens that we're looking through, is not about fixing yourselves. You're letting go of that old, I'm broken, I'm not able to, all of the negativity in the head, and you're letting it go. You're not
Mhm.
broken. Nobody's broken. But also, it is refining what is real for each one of us, right?
Mhm.
Um, what is the reality of who you want to be? Maybe the reality of the things that you've always taken for granted as far as your fears or your fear, but also your victimology, if we could call it that, your
Oh,
victimness.
victimology.
Victimology. Let's let the victimness go. And because this is on the south node, of course, we're releasing any of those Virgo distortions in our energy, which are usually the hypercritical, over analytical, over functioning, saving everyone energy, fixing what isn't ours to fix, right? Getting into somebody else's business,
Yep.
uh, all of those control issues. There's a lot
Mhm.
for us to be able to let go of during this particular eclipse. And I find it to be one of the biggest eclipses, I think, of our time that we live in right now.
A lot of astrologers are actually saying that. I find it really interesting that a real turning point, or it can be a real turning point. So
I
it's
think it
exciting.
is. Yeah, I think it is a real turning point. There's 2 big ones this year. One that's right now, I think, and then another one that happens in June when we have the Uranus bending, north bending, we call it, where it comes into a square with the nodal axis. And
Oh.
I think this one sets the stage for
Mm,
what it is that we can really affect as change later as we get into, June, July time period.
okay.
And which then is the presage to, the August eclipses. So this is an important pattern, is I guess basically what we're trying to say. And I think there's a question that all of us need to ask ourselves, Tam, and that is, where are we working harder than life really requires us to work? Where are we
What?
so tunneled into having to have things be perfect or do this in this way? And it's breaking us down rather than empowering us to be a full expression of who we are.
Yeah.
You feel that too?
100%. I was just going to comment that I have felt this energy building in my life. As external events are going on around me, I find myself just like, I don't have to save that. I don't have to, like, I find myself just allowing distance and watching things unfold instead of helping them unfold. And it's clearly this energy that's around me. I love it. For me,
Yeah.
it's very important. Yeah.
And there's this block of people that were born between, say, 57 and 1971 who have Pluto in Virgo. So this eclipse may be, me too, may be landing right on a very transformational spot in your chart or in your
Yeah.
life. So for those
Yeah.
of you who are listening out there, get your charts and take a look at where Virgo falls. So Virgo is this sign that looks like an M with I always say it's like a lady sitting with her legs crossed. Um, and that is where the eclipse is falling. And opposite of that, directly opposite of it, will be the sign of Pisces, where you'll notice it because it has a ton of planets in it, right? And the Pisces, we call this a stellium. If you look at this, we have Mars, the north node, the ascendant of the chart, which is not really important, but for the chart it would be, the Sun, and Mercury, and Venus, right? All sitting right there. And Mercury is in retrograde on the eclipse because he turned
Yes.
retrograde today. He turns retrograde.
Yeah.
So we have something that's pulling us a little bit backwards, looking at the past in order to set ourselves up for the future. We have the sun there, which is our identity. And our identities may be dissolving, the old us shifting away. Mars is the energy that's diffused into the collective, like what is kind of moving into us as individuals, but we're a part of this collective. Mercury, of course, softens our thoughts, but also can confuse, and especially when he's
Yeah.
in retrograde. Venus here. Venus is an important character on the stage of 2026. So I, would think Venus here is really about our spiritualizing our values, which means that we're
Mm,
really looking internally to see, are we really aligned? Are we, living our values? And
right.
which causes us to question, well, what do I value? And also, not just what do you value, but what is your value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you valuing yourself enough and all of that? And then with the North Node there, which is our destiny, for those of you not familiar with the nodes, the North Node is pushing us, pulling us forward, while the South Node are the things that we need to leave behind. Well, the moon in Virgo is sitting with the South Node. So what are we leaving behind? Old perfectionism, hypersensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
critical thinking, no, overcritical
Overly
thinking,
critical. Yeah.
overly critical.
Self-critical often. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the North Node pulling us on to this evolutionary compassion, empathy, a
Mm.
bigger heart, right? Your heart might be feeling pretty expanded through this particular eclipse.
I want to
And
share. Whoop. Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
One more thing, and I made a note about it in the comments. Like, this is a quadruple 3 activation. The third month is March. It happens on the third day. It's at the 12th degree. 1 + 2 is 3. So the sun is at a 3 and the moon is at a 3. So I like to think of a 3 as creativity and communication, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that, it's like we are creating a new identity under this eclipse, right? The creativity edge that's there under the numerology associated with this moon, I think is going to be impactful. And we speak ourselves into reality too, the communication piece. I just think it's important. Your I am statements, and we know that manifestation is ramping up. So your I am statements under this moon use them powerfully and use them really, really well, please.
Maybe this is more like there's another reason behind this. Really, it's not just that it's at the 12th degree, because it's really technically called the 13th degree when you're
Yes,
so
I saw
far
that.
into the degree. But get
Yeah.
this, when you add up the numbers of 12 degrees, 54 minutes, it comes down to 12, which is a 3. So the
Ta-da.
magic of the 3 is in there no matter what,
Yeah.
how you
Oh,
use
that's cool.
it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking at that in my head going, okay, 3, 5, 8, 4 is 12. Oh my God, that's a 3.
3 energy.
Yeah. So it's 3 energy no matter how you cook it. But also interesting in human design to look at where the moon is, because it's in the final gate of the human design template, the final gene key, if you're a gene keys follower. And that particular energy is called divine transference. And it's all about how I find it fascinating, first of all, that that gate sits in Virgo, but it makes sense in a way because we're transferring the divine into the physical. So
Mm,
there's this, it could be divine ideas, it could be divine presence being channeled in for embodiment
mm,
and balancing the human in the spiritual form, or the
nice.
spirit in the human form. It's really kind of exciting. So this is not a logic versus emotion kind of moon or kind of eclipse. It's really about refining ourselves and, you know, not just letting go or surrendering who you are. That's really not quite it. It's really, I don't know. I, I, I put the word in one of these things, surgical. It's more precise than that. You know, you're looking at yourself and you're cutting out the things that just don't fit, that are done, right? It's so done
Refining.
and
Refine. You're editing your life. You're editing your life. That's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then with the Virgo moon, what you're really doing is bringing your mysticism, your spiritualism, your higher self into your body,
Mm,
embodiment. It's a big time. It's a big time. And then I also looked at the only, besides the fact there's a lot of planets together in Pisces, the only other real activation of the moon is with Jupiter.
mhm,
And that is because Jupiter sits at about 15 degrees right now of Cancer. Cancer's
mhm,
water, and it is in sextile to Virgo, the Virgo moon. And it is a trine to the Pisces planets, right? Which
mm,
these are positive aspects. So not just the astro speak, guys. It's really, these are positive ways in which Jupiter, the planet of luck and fortune and expansion and growth, is playing in this moon. And it creates this water earth support system, right? Those
mm,
parts of us, the water, the memory, the intuition, the inner self, and the earth, the embodiment of the spirit in the
mm.
body. So this this doesn't mean that you're losing support in any kind of way.
No.
You're not losing anything. You're just letting go of what no longer fits.
Um, right or wrong, you tell me. Jupiter in Cancer sextile this moon is going to amplify intuition. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or cause it to flow easily.
There we go. Yes. Yeah.
And the trine, of course, to all of the planets around the sun, all those planets in Pisces, is also another indicator that there's this flow setting up between our higher selves and our embodied selves. And I feel like there's a whole lot of intolerance and acceptance of the way the old has been, that is shifting and allowing us to see ourselves in a higher spiritual way,
Mm,
seeing our higher spiritual selves. I don't know.
it's amazing.
So, yeah. All right. So, the lunar eclipse in Virgo is the thing that we're really letting go of because of the South Node. We're letting go of overfunctioning. We're letting go of control patterns, self-improvement addictions, right? How many out there of you have bought programs over and over and over for self-improvement, and
Oh no, not our people. No.
you still don't see yourself as improved. So you go on and you buy the next one. So we're letting
Yeah.
go of that, right? We're fixing, we're feeling like we've needed fixing, and all along you've just been perfect the way you've been, right? You're evolving. And this could be seen as an emotional dysfunction and behavioral detox, which I
Wow.
think is so funny. This is a detoxing sort of moon. And it's important for us to think about this. I'm going to go back to our regular screen here, because I think, the following week, and let me put up our calendar. I forgot to do that. Oh my goodness, there's our calendar. So if we look at here's, March 5th, 3rd, excuse me, is the eclipse, but look at every day after that for at least the next, 6 days, there is something important happening.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take all the time to go through all of these things, but I just want you to understand that the week of March 4th through the 9th, essentially, is all about a reorientation after that eclipse.
Yeah.
Because the eclipses don't happen necessarily just as one moment in time. Like, we're already feeling the impact of this impending eclipse, even though today's only the 25th of February. And then you're going to feel it again, or still, even maybe 3 or so weeks after that eclipse, especially because Mercury's retrograde. So the changes are going to be playing around in your mind. So what happens after you let go in the eclipse is that there's this whole host of recalibration transits that happen, right? The first one being a sort of, let's see, the first one is Venus in a sextile to Uranus. So our values being reoriented to what's liberating us, what's awakening within us, a values shift, we could call that, right? You're seeing things differently. Maybe you're seeing your relationship to money or security, or in your relationships differently. And maybe it's a more softened awakening because Venus is involved. And it might be an awakening that says, oh, yeah, I just don't want that anymore. I don't want to be that way anymore. I don't want to feel like that anymore. And it's subtle, but it's liberating. So for some people, it could be quite an awakening process. And for others of us, it's like oh, yeah, duh. Like, that's the direction I'm going. And then the sun trines Jupiter. And now we have this emotional reassurance sort of after that eclipse energy, where the eclipse sort of is pruning things out of our lives, but then the sun feels like it steadies us, right? That sun coming in and saying your essence of you is still there, right? You didn't, just because you cut XYZ out, you're still there, fundamentally intact and okay. And this kind of reinforces the bigger March theme of growth that's rooted in belonging, and also in aligning ourselves with what's valuable, what our value is. And then on March 7th, Mercury in retrograde, comes into the conjunction with the sun. And that's always the beginning of the new Mercury cycle. It's kind of ironic, I think, that the new Mercury cycle begins when Mercury is retrograde and conjuncts the sun. And this happening in Pisces. So the new beginning with the sun and Mercury here is really about the embodiment of spirit.
Beautiful.
In a way, the relinquishing of the mind and the more surrender, connection to our spiritual selves. So that's kind of cool. And the mental reset, I guess you could call this too, because the reset in the mind.
Yeah,
And then,
rethinking about yourself. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
yeah, how you see yourself in the world, how you think about
Yes.
things in the world, and in your own life, that kind of thing. It's insight that's born from reflection, maybe, right? Going inward and seeing things differently. And collectively, that Mercury coming into connection with the sun, can be about reframing conversations. How we relive those things in our mind. I shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of, conversations. Maybe hidden information surfacing, like what's been hidden from you coming up to the surface. Maybe a shift in tone, in the media or the public discourse, the reframing of things that are being said out there. So it can be a very interesting week following that eclipse. And then the very last day of that week, if you will, Venus comes into a sextile with Pluto. And I forgot Venus entering Aries, right?
Yes.
Venus, which is in Pisces, enters Aries. Then she comes into a conjunction with Neptune and Saturn. And that starts a whole new um, ignition of identity, right?
Mm,
Collectively, but also internally. Like, who am I? And Venus in Aries is really going to be more about initiating connections and stop the over accommodating of people and things and, being something that she never really wanted to be. And the divine feminine shift here is huge because she's
yeah,
now entering the masculine sign of
right,
Aries,
right.
shifting from the martyr, victim, feminine into the more pioneering, courageous, action-oriented feminine. So, for people, this is just a shameless plug on my part. In the month of March, and I haven't picked the date yet, I am going to be doing a webinar on Venus because I feel like she has this milk toast sort of image in the pantheon or in the archetypal energy, and we've totally left out the wild, courageous, fire Venus, right? Venus originally was embodied in the goddess Inanna, who was depicted as a comet of fire falling from the sky and burning up the earth in terms of depositing passion and desire, and all of that's lost really in the Venus that we have today. And so I'm going to be working on that because I want to bring some of those myths in
Nice.
and make her more full bodied and
Yeah.
more, um, you know, I don't know. Uh, Just be watching for that. Anyway, now, then, so the emotional integration part of Venus is gone, right? Because now she's turned to ignition. And that ignition is all about igniting your passion and your fire and your value and how it is that you want to live an untamed life. Untamed. What would that look like, Tam?
Oh man alive. I love the idea of dreaming into that and feeling the freedom that would come with that. Ooh.
hmm This is like kind of like desire meeting idealism, right? All of the
Mm,
ideals, the hopes, and the dreams and the visionary parts of ourselves, really meeting at a place where it can become real, it can become created. And, the question becomes for every one of us, are we acting from fantasy? Are we still in the la land of that, Piscean
I
dream?
see energy,
Or
right?
are we gonna take the action to bring the dream into reality, right? Or, are we still in the fog? And if you're in the fog still at that point, okay, but just start to really consciously work with yourself to bring out of the fog and into the light the things that you really want to be and who you wanna be, what you wanna do, and all of that. You wanna add anything to that?
No. No, thank you.
So it boggles the mind that there's that number of transits that follow such a
Yeah,
powerful eclipse.
yeah,
And I didn't wanna miss that. But then we also have Jupiter, the mightiest planet in our solar system, turning to direct motion, which
yeah,
means he's moving out of retrograde and forward. So all
yeah,
the growth on the inner planes that have been happening since, was it December, I think, uh, are now gonna be pushed outward, right? So when a planet is retrograde, the, energy of it goes inward, and when it turns back to forward motion, it goes outward. So
yeah.
growth and expansion now possible on the outer realms, and I
Mm,
think it becomes, a time when we're really able to well, frankly, she's been in the sign of Cancer, or he has been
mhm.
in the sign of Cancer. And Cancer is about safety and security and growth and nurturing and intuition. And there's that hard shell that covers the crab, right? And it hides the soft, inner, sensitive parts of the crab. So when we think about Cancer energy, what has hardened or encrusted on the outside that is protective in some way of what's on the inside? So in a way, now that Jupiter moves direct, some of the more sensitive, empathic, compassionate, nurturing energy comes back out, right? Comes
Mm,
back out into the world. And that means, amplifying things, energies like that in our families, our national identity. This country is a Cancer,
that's right.
right? So it's moving through a very vital part of this nation's identity. There's the concept of emotional safety with Cancer, right? The crab
Mhm.
shell hides the sensitive emotional self. Belonging. Where do we belong? Who do we belong with? Who belongs here? Who doesn't belong here? All of that kind of energy. And land and homeland kind of energies have been up, with Jupiter in Cancer. So maybe we see shifts in our connection to those things with Jupiter moving direct, maybe renewed conversations around what it is that we define protection as or inclusion as, and how do we want our homeland to be. So it's a
Mm.
bigger themed energy, but you're also living this out in your own personal life wherever Jupiter is in your chart, i.e., wherever Cancer is in your chart, right? So, where does growth now require some emotional honesty on our parts,
Ooh, great question.
right? Emotional honesty meaning, what really does feel like home? Like, what does it mean to feel home, at home, to belong? What no longer does feel like you belong? And if we tie this all back to the eclipse, of course, we released the overfunctioning, the hypercritical and overly analytical energies with the eclipse. Now we're going to build something that actually nourishes us, or at least
Right.
that's the hope. That is the potential for what happens with Jupiter direct.
Mm.
All right. What up? What's next?
What up? She said, hold on.
What up?
Your chart says the 15th. Oh, actually, yeah, the 15th is our next thing. Mercury conjunct Mars.
Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars.
Yeah, retrograde. That's true.
Yeah,
Right.
in the sign of Pisces, and
Yeah.
it is on the 15th to beware the Ides of March.
Oh, right. Ides
Right,
of
the
March.
whole yeah, and, I looked at, Mercury, conjunct Mars, and I feel like it gives us access to new ways of thinking,
Mm.
maybe, new words that wanna come out that are I mean, I can't help but see this whole entire year, Tam, as our need to become more emotionally intelligent.
Oh,
And
heck. That's great. Yes.
yeah, and how, we need to release those old, reactive,
Yep.
emotional energies, right? We're needing to learn to police our own emotions and
Mm-hmm.
not be the spewing of anger or frustration or uh, just rather than spewing, look inward and say, okay, well, what does this emotion mean for me? What is it showing me about me? And uh, giving us an opportunity to respond rather than react. And I feel like this whole entire year is the prelude to the 2027 mutation that occurs in human beings as seen through the human design template. And I know
Mm.
that's kind of saying a lot, but as we get into 2027, there's a huge mutation that's occurring, a new 400-year cycle being birthed that takes us into a completely more spiritualized relationship, both with emotion, with embodiment, and with the way that we think in the
Amen.
world. It's going to be a huge shift. Now, primarily that impacts the new people being born in 2027, but all of us are, already feeling the need to change our relationship with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, that's the Jupiter direct is how do we build something new in the world if we can't police our emotions, if we're spewing all the time our anger and our vitriol and our inability to understand, well, where does that emotion come from?
Right.
So
Brilliant.
it's huge, right? I think it's huge.
Let's talk
Pisces new moon.
Let's talk about the Pisces new moon. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me change this over so that everybody can see the chart of the new moon. The
Yep.
new moon is right there. And look at it. It's like everything's on one side of the chart.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah. It's a pattern that's been sort of in play for a while, I think. In the last several months, we've seen the planets kind of pile up in each sign.
Right.
And
That's true.
yeah,
Yep.
and we had the stellium in Aquarius, then we had the Piscean stellium, and we're headed to a very powerful Aries stellium. And after that, things get a little more diffuse, but it tells us something, right? Aquarian energy is all about the future and our setting ourselves up for forward thinking. Then we moved into Pisces, which says we have to spiritualize our values and spiritualize our idea of who we are. And then Aries is that new identity, all things possible, all things new. So here in this new moon, what we see is that we have Sun, Moon, Mars, North Node, Mercury retrograde. And by the way, Mercury turns direct the same day as the new moon.
Yeah.
Right? So they're in tandem, lockstep with one another. And all of that energy in the sign of Spirit. And it happens to be in a sextile, a positive relationship with the planet Uranus. If you note, the moon and the sun are at the 28th degree, and so is Uranus, but of Taurus. So we have a grand awakening potential here. And I really, when I see something like this with so much potential, I always want to go deeper. I want to look at, well, what's the human design gate it's in? What are the gene key frequency band that this is in? And it's huge, right? This is falling. I mean, I had to go, I even went to my special book, the Book of Lines, which is a book about human design, I Ching, and in some ways it's the basis for the gene keys as well, because I wanted to make sure I was not incorrect as far as where this is happening in the gate of the love of Spirit. It is in a gate that its highest expression is universal love. Its gift is acceptance. And in its lowest expression is what happens when we close down our heart, and that is constriction. So this new moon gives us this yummy, potentially spiritual evolution that has us seeing things, everything around us through the higher heart. And you know what the higher heart is, right? It's the heart that is above the heart. That is where the truth of soul really lives. The truth of our identities really lives in that higher heart. And I just couldn't believe that all of that was happening. But here's the funny thing. Uranus is in the gate 8, which is called the gate of contribution, which means we're all leaning toward awakening and liberating our true expressions of ourselves in the world, how we share ourselves, how we share our gifts and our talents with the world. And letting go, of course, was happening earlier in the month with the full moon in eclipse, where we've let go of what didn't really matter. And now it's like full tilt taking us way into the future, where what really matters is what's coming from the heart. Not, and likely, and I see it every day, the juxtaposition between the love of Spirit and the heart and love and tolerance and acceptance versus that outer world that shows us a lot of not those things. Our opportunity is to keep realigning ourselves with love, and universal love being that highest expression. But even if we can rise to the level of acceptance, we're in the gift level of the frequency. Acceptance of love, acceptance that every human has intrinsic value and is worthy of love. And of course, there's a lot that's tied into that with our thoughts about who deserves that and who doesn't deserve that. That is shifting, right? That is all in the shift. That's the potential. So I really love this new moon, even though the only aspect it really makes is with Uranus, which means it could be some surprises, certainly, about,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. Like, I'm thinking Uranus is likely going to trigger either surprises or maybe an awakening inside of ourselves around our personal value and contribution to, the changes forthcoming.
Yeah, there's, this is ending of Piscean energy as well, right? It's at this point where we're shifting out of that Piscean victimhood, the savior martyr energies that come at it from Virgo, and, rising out of victim consciousness, right? So think about all the things that are happening in our outer world these days, and how, if we were to rise up out of victim consciousness, how that would impact everything.
Oh, it would be everything.
That would be epic. It would be epic. And also then a lot of times that ending of Pisces is also about the forgiveness work that we have to do that's involved in our releasing of the old and seeing, the bad behaviors, the things that we did that, were unloving or unkind or unjust. And we've got to forgive ourselves for it, right? We have to let it go so that we can become fully loving. So this new moon on the 18th, it's happening just before the zodiacal new year. So we have this
Right.
new beginning seed plopped on us just before the new year. And it's, not asking us necessarily what it is that we want to achieve. It's really asking us, what are we willing to surrender and let go of to forgive ourselves for in order to come out innocent and new and prepared to be inspirited.
Come out of the gate a fresh new baby, ready to take on the world in April.
I was on Facebook for a brief second this morning and I saw this beautiful image that my granddaughter's friend took of her baby sitting on a window seat looking out at the snow, which of course, when you are looking at snow, it's all clean and it's innocence and it's
Yeah,
beauty and it's like all potential. And here it was just so, I don't know that she realized how beautiful that
perfect it
picture of
was.
the baby looking out at a world that is clothed in innocence.
Mm,
And I'm getting chills,
yeah,
spam, Tam, as I'm thinking of all of this, potential for this new moon
yeah.
to set up an extraordinary gift for all of us.
I love it. We really are at a turning point, and I think 2026 potential is being named and called out right here. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it's a choice. That's the point that I do want to make for everybody. It's a choice.
Always,
It isn't
every
going to just happen. Like, it isn't just going to happen that people's minds and hearts are going to change. It has to be consciousness changing, awakening, liberating you from the old and you reorienting yourself to the new, to what's possible, to what is right for you. Because
yeah.
when we do that, we allow that for the person next to us to also be that, right? To live their life in their passion and their joy. So it's almost like, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And it just builds and it builds exponentially. But we got to start with ourselves. And
I'm not
that's
gonna lie, I would vote for the moon to occur and everybody just wake up out of their fog and we come into balance. It would be beautiful. But you're so right. It's really about consciousness and being awakened to the fact that you have a choice about your behavior and your action taking and all of that. So that was beautifully said, Janet.
Thank you. I also want to point out one thing here for us and for you. You and I talked a lot about this in the summertime, the architecture of the future through the minor grand trine that was between Uranus and then Neptune and Saturn and then Pluto. And you can see it here. It's activated here,
Yeah.
right? We have Pluto or Uranus at 28 degrees. This time it's the sun and the moon and Pluto, Saturn that are just outside of, they're in the conjunction, but they're just outside in Aries and also in the relationship with Pluto. That architecture still there, holding space for us to build that future. It's
Yeah.
there. I love
Beautiful.
it. All right. Now let's go on to the new year because that also has a chart. And
Great.
here we go. March 20th is the zodiacal or astrological new year. That is called the Aries point. That occurs when the sun gets to 0 degrees of Aries. And that is the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of new energy. It is in the gate of spirit. Again, the
Oh,
love of spirit,
yay.
right? That's why I had to go back to my book because I'm looking to see is really the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aries this point of innocence, this point of love, and it is. It is. And I I mean, again, here go the chill bumps down my arms, down my back, because it's so vital for us to understand the impact that love and not love has in our lives and
Love
in
and not
our
love.
collective, right? So this is the ignition point of the year. This is where the new beginning occurs. Now, I'm looking at this chart really more instead of it as a person, it's an event, and as an event, it can be the representation of the energies for a nation. And I've got this set for Washington D.C. because that's kind of our eastern seaboard. It's the seat of power in our country. And so the planets take on a little bit of a different look when they are in this kind of a chart. For instance, the sun represents the leadership of the nation, whether it's the president or king or whatever, prime minister. The leader of a nation is the sun. Then we have the moon, also in Aries at this point, which is the people.
Yep.
So the hopes and the dreams of the people and the actions that the people are taking, the leadership in Neptune and Saturn are also here in this sign on that day, as well as Chiron. So the wound, all of these things are all coming together at this 0 point Aries. And whatever house this is in your chart, is this fire house of ignition for you, of what you're going to be living. Now, when we look at this as a chart of a nation, it's in the 11th house, which is the house of humanitarianism. It is the house of the dream, the ideal, the bigger vision. So I think it primes us to see above the lower energies that have been present and see the potential, right? See something new. And this isn't solo energy here. It's not like just one planet is sitting at the 0 point, right? We have lots of planetary energy here. Saturn, disciplined courage, right? The courage to step out of the old paradigm, the old concepts, the old structures, the old forms. Neptune, inspired identity, taking on and really carrying the spiritual aspects of yourself. Chiron here, which is the healing that we're all going through collectively through being self-identified, like knowing who you really are. Eris is also here. She's not shown here because I limited the chart, but she's the refusal for us to be erased, right? For groups to be erased, or for a group, right? It's in the 11th house.
Sure.
Venus, desire, linked with agency, which is linked to sovereignty, which is linked to I am. And then, of course, the sun and moon, conscious ignition of all the things that, potentially lie ahead for us. And this doesn't have to be the reckless form of Aries energy. It can be, but it won't be, hopefully. This is initiated conscience. Now, because I cannot control the things that go on in that outer world, you cannot either. There could be some upsetting things at the 0 point ignition. I mean, I've heard it over and over from astrologers about mid-March and how, all hell can break loose. I believe that's totally possible, but that is not what I'm going to focus on. Right? My focus is going to be on love, building a future that I want to be a part of, and not one that has been deemed okay for us to live in, right? I want to be something better than that.
I have this cool vision of all of us here in the Astro tribe, kind of at this big gate, and where our noses are up against the gate like horses on a run. And this date happens, and it says Gate of Love, and we're all like, here we are, right? Like, we can hold space.
We start the race with love.
The more of us that hold space for this, love of spirit, we are a tapestry, and we are one thread of many, but the more threads there are, the better. So consciousness is everything.
Yeah. And we've all probably heard of the 100th monkey syndrome.
100th monkey. It could be any one of us that is that 100th monkey. So hold space for an amazing outcome.
For an amazing outcome. And another point about this year is that the ascendant for a chart like this becomes the pointer as to how long this chart will be activated. And the ascendant is in Gemini, which is a mutable sign, which means that this chart is only activated for 6 months. So while this is an Aries point reset, we have another one that will happen when we get to 0 Libra, which will be in September.
Okay.
So that reset, so we'll be having a conversation likely in our September Astro-Inklings about, well, okay, what's happened so far? And now looking at that chart as another new beginning, where do we go from here? And that'll be with the autumn equinox, right?
Right.
So it'll be.
So does that mean the next ascendant is going to be Sag?
I don't know, because I don't know what time that equinox happens, but
Gotcha.
we'll set the chart for 0 degrees Libra, and that whatever's rising then, it might even be like a Scorpio. That would be what I thought. And I
Okay.
find that interesting because in this country, at least, that's previous to the midterm elections. There's a lot of turning
Oh,
points that happen in the fall with Pluto in
that's a
his
good point.
his out of bounds state.
Yeah.
It is the architecture of the future also being more prominently displayed at that point in time. So it makes sense that this can't be the chart for the whole entire year. This is the setup, and it'll be. I
Oh,
haven't looked ahead at 0 Libra yet. I should have, but no, I should. Right, we got to live. There's a lot to live right here between,
we have a lot
March
to live.
and yeah. There's a lot to live, and really, there's this call that is being, brought to all of us to elevate our world, to elevate our lives, to be better stewards of the earth, to be better stewards of our relationships, to be better stewards of, how we make decisions and how we lead, and what the expectations that we have of our leaders. And this year literally cannot be shaped by force. So wherever we see force out there, that is anti-love, if you will, because it's
Right.
going to be shaped by the stories that we choose to amplify. Are we going to
Right.
amplify the stories of intolerance, of unloving acts, of crazy frustrated anger, or are we going to apply love and forgiveness, and all of those kinds of things, because literally that's what's up to us, how
Yeah,
we apply our personal energies to all of this.
absolutely.
It's
Beautiful.
extraordinary. It's really
It
an
is.
extraordinary time.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's so exciting to be alive right now. Janet, we've only got about 5 minutes or less.
Yes, we do. Let's jump to March 30th, because I feel like this is the exclamation point. It's not even an exclamation point. It's more like the period at the
Yeah,
end of the month when Venus moves out of Aries and into Taurus.
the
And,
Taurus.
she's moving from that highly ignited initiation energy of Aries into the embodiment energy of Taurus.
Yeah.
I mean, fit that on. And she rules Taurus. This is her
Right.
sign.
She rules for us. That was my thought too. Like, oh, she's happy now. She's content. I love that. I love that she, went through Aries and brought all that passion and excitement into initiating, but like, let's settle in now. Boink, put on
Yeah.
those denim overalls and that straw hat, and let's, honestly, and settle in for a minute.
Yeah. Embody it all.
Embody it.
Embody, right? Venus becomes a value practical here, right? What's
Yeah.
the practical values of things? Pleasure becomes stabilizing, like we start to become more involved in the good things in life, right? If we're focusing on the good, then we are creating that in a way, and not focusing on the bad, which would also be we create the bad.
Right.
Um, and at the end of such a catalytic month, right, with the eclipse, with the new year, with the new moon, with all of the different things that we've talked about, Venus in Taurus reminds us that stability is valuable, right? That sustainability is beautiful, and
Yeah.
that, March in the main is not really asking us to be urgent and to fight and keep moving. It's asking us to align with our highest selves, with our highest values, um, releasing emphasis, over work, over analysis, uh, softening into an emotional truth, igniting from consciousness,
Mm,
and not just from fear, or the negative qualities that fear has brought to the planet. We're building what can endure, right? I mean, you can see that if we're building on love, it's sustainable, and it can endure. Where if we're
mm,
built on fear, it has its drop off points, right? It has its negative side. So hopefully March can become a month where we are empowered but without the theatrics and the dramas and the traumas. Although if that happens, it happens, right? It's out there.
Yeah.
And that we can begin to shift to new leadership qualities that are not domination, but are synchronous, that are, oh, I'm trying to think of the word, that synarchy is the
Oh,
word
yes.
that
That's right.
in the
That's right.
Gene Key, where we are all, ruling together, that we're all on it, involved in the leading of the world.
And I'll throw in some Aries language, like, you take responsibility for your piece of this. I'm going to keep bringing it back and turning the mirror, looking in the mirror. Take
Exactly.
responsibility for your portion of creating the changes that this new earth requires of us.
Yeah.
I really think we nailed it in that theme. Meaningful progress in March through intuitive action. And we could have even said through heart-centered action, right? Would have
Yes.
been equally powerful in that. I need to take a minute, Janet, to remind everybody it's safe to open your energy almanac next week. I'm thrilled. This book is so beautiful, Janet.
It
Oh my
is.
God,
It
we
is.
created a beautiful thing. We get your 2026, 2027 book out and open it up next week and start working with it. We have all your do, your do not, your illustration. The illustrations in this book go through the whole growth cycle. I don't know if you actually remember that, Janet,
Yeah.
but
From
it
seed to
starts with
tree.
planting seeds in March, and that's what we're all doing. We're planting seeds for this new earth that we're building, and I couldn't be happier to be on this journey with Janet and everybody else. I do have one offer that I'm starting in March. May I?
Yes, please.
Have you ever been told just do the work? Just do the work to fix yourself and do the work to get over that belief system. Do the work, do the work, do the work. I
Yep.
heard Janet say during this call, you're not broken. And I firmly believe nobody is broken. I believe that 100%. And a lot of people do not know how to do the work. I have done so many short astrology readings and coaching calls where people who really, really feel stuck. So I created a group coaching program. I'm very, very excited about it. It starts on the eclipse with great intention. I'm actually going to type it into the chat box. It's
Okay.
called the Work Workshop, and it's basically 3 months with me. Let me type it in while I talk. Truthlychange.com
Yeah.
/ products / the work workshop. This is 3 months with me of doing transformational coaching. I'm going to help people who have been really stuck, not sure how to get past the old beliefs. Products. That doesn't work.
Yep.
Products. You want me to retype that?
Change note that
Okay.
O to you.
So I'm going to teach people how to identify who do I want to be? I literally take that Aries, like, who am I? My identity, how do I want to feel every day? We're going to align with a vision for yourself. And then we're going to break through the belief systems that are keeping you stuck. I have a really good protocol for identifying old stories, identifying old belief systems. And then I teach emotional freedom technique tapping to soften the pain points. And then I teach in the 3rd month how to create a culture of change. So it's about environmental things that you can do, as well as languaging that you can use. And it's just a 3-month process in a group setting. We're going to use a Facebook group. And I threw in a bonus training because I'm just so in love with neurographic art. Neurographic art changes your neurology. It changes the actual grooves in your brain and releases pain in a really fast, really, really fun way. So the workshop begins on the eclipse, and I would love to have anybody who wants to participate join me.
And that's March 3rd. March
March
3rd.
3rd. So it starts next week, and I'm offering payment plans. And if you don't want to be part of the online group, I'm also offering just the replays. You can order just the videos and we'll send you them. Every time I create a video, it'll go out to you.
Very
So
good. So you're seeing the on screen, you see the link, but remember it's products. Don't do the docs. It's
products is with a UCTS.
all right. That
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. And what a great time to start it as we're releasing on that day. And it is,
Let's
kind of a new beginning in the in the releasing.
I did
So
the timing specifically around the eclipses and the start of a new year. That's exactly why I did it. I would love to mention that our next Astro-Inklings call is March 26th.
wouldn't it be the 25th?
No, Wednesday the 25th is exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, you're right, the 25th.
Okay.
Wednesday.
Like, did I get that
Yeah.
wrong? Yeah, it'll be March 25th, and we'll take a look ahead at April, which promises to be a huge month in at
A
least
huge
Aries
one.
energy, right? Very,
Yeah.
very powerful. All right,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for being with me this morning, Tam, and thank all of you for joining us. And have a great rest of your week. I will see you on Friday morning. Take care, everybody. Bye for
Bye,
now.
everyone. Happy March.